We got out of the basement, but I'm not out of the woods yet. I just need to grab a few essentials and, well, my books. But, before I escape, I have this strong compulsion to do the Moody Reader Tag. Is that mustard? I was originally planning on doing a review today, but life got in the way, so I'm doing a tag. I've seen a few people do this one, Be Reading, David's book reviews, and this just in. I've probably seen other people do it too. This one seems to be pretty popular. From what I can tell, it seems to have been created by the channel Slanted Spines, who I'm not really familiar with, but I'll probably check out some of her vids after this. I thought it seemed like a pretty interesting tag, so I'm gonna give it a try. Question 1. Do you consider yourself to be a mood reader? Yes. What I read is very dictated by my mood, what I feel like reading in that moment. It's very difficult for me to force myself to read something or to stick to a schedule, especially when my interest changes. Do you set TBRs, and do you stick to them? I tried that. For those of you that have been with the channel from the beginning, probably remember I attempted to do a themed TBR. But, yeah, that didn't really stick, and I did not stick to that at all, and I've since stopped doing them. So, yeah, no, I'm bad at it. I don't at all, because I know I'm not going to stick to it, so I don't really see a point for myself. Question 3. Do books affect you emotionally? Does the mood of a book rub off on you? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I guess it depends on how invested I am in the book, but, generally speaking, yeah, absolutely. If a book makes me sad, I get sad. If a book makes me happy, I get happy. And that's, and everything in between. Question 5. Most often, do you use reading to escape, to learn, or to critically reflect? It depends on my mood. But it also kind of depends on the kind of book. Honestly, ideally I try to do all 3 at the same time. Yeah, but I mean, obviously, like, if it's a nonfiction book about political stuff, it's kind of difficult to use that as an escape thing. And if it's, like a dumb, pulpy sci-fi thing or whatever, it's kind of difficult to learn. At least not learn, like, facts. I guess you can learn things about yourself or about society or how people work from that, I guess. But yeah, it really depends on, it depends. It depends. Ideally all 3 at the same time. What is a book that made you laugh out loud? So I don't have a copy of it with me because, my books are all packed up because I'm escaping from this house. Does anything eat bankers? And 53 other indispensable questions for the Credit Crunched by Andy Zaltzman is a favorite. For those of you unfamiliar with Andy Zaltzman, he is a stand-up comedian from the UK, currently based in London, I think. But he's a co-host of a podcast that used to be co-hosted with John Oliver, called The Bugle, before John abandoned ship to host his HBO show because he's a traitor. But now, I haven't listened to The Bugle really regularly in a while, but they now have a bunch of guest hosts and stuff. But I always kind of preferred Andy to John, just humor-wise. He's very absurdist and very, he likes puns. A big fan of puns. He'd go on, like, pun runs and stuff. And that kind of stuff is in here. The book was written, I believe, in response to the 2008 housing crisis. There's not a plot or anything. It's really just a string of jokes. It's very funny. Question 7. What is a book that made you cry? Or if you don't cry, one that really moved you? First of all, who doesn't? Everybody cries. If you don't cry, maybe look into that a bit and ask yourself why you're stopping yourself from feeling things, unless you have like some kind of tear duct condition that I'm unaware exists. My answer for this is Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee by D. Brown. It is a book about how the West was lost, basically. I believe that's a quote on the back of the book. But I read this book. It's about how the destruction of different native cultures in the plains, in the American plains. And it's really depressing. Everything goes bad because America sucks. Or at least white people in America suck. I say as a white person in America, you can't get mad at me. It also helped that I had never really been to that area of the country before, and I happened to be reading it while I was in Colorado, and I would see passing references to some of the tribes, and it really made me very sad because it's just like, oh, there's now this like outdoor shopping mall. It's called like, I think it was called like Arapahoe Commons or something like that. And it's like, oh, and thinking like, oh, the Arapahoe are now in like Nebraska or something, on like a reservation, and they're nowhere near their ancestral homelands because the governor of Colorado wanted to expel all of the native people. But yeah, it's not a uplifting book, but it's something that I think people should be aware of. It's not a fun book, but you should all read it. Or at least just read something about Native American history, you know? It doesn't get taught enough. Question number 8. What is a book that you didn't even know how you felt about? I don't think there's any books that I don't know how I feel about. I think what this question's trying to get at is like a book that I'm maybe conflicted about. And for that, I would probably say the Kreutzer, I think is how it's pronounced, the Kreutzer Sonata by Leo Tolstoy. I really like Tolstoy. I really like his writing style. I really like his later works after he kind of like had a religious breakthrough. I think his thoughts are really, his nonfiction writing around that time period is really fascinating. Like, I really like The Kingdom of God is Within You. I found absolutely fascinating. It made me really reassess my views of Christianity. But the Kreutzer Sonata has all of that stuff, but in addition to some of that cool, like, interesting, kind of radical interpretation of Christianity that Tolstoy had, it's also really sexist. The book was kind of interesting, but it also had some stuff that made me go, what? What'd you say? What? Huh? Anyway, question 9. Are you more likely to read on a sunny day or a cloudy day? I think a cloudy day, because if it's sunny out, I'm gonna feel more inclined to go out and do stuff like, I don't know, like go for a walk or skateboard or play basketball or something. Whereas a cloudy day, I'm more inclined to just want to stay in, and I really don't read outside much, like in the park or anything like that. I've never been super inclined to do that. I usually, if I read outside, I really don't read outside of the house much, except on like public transit. Question 10. Do you usually set the mood when reading? Music, lights, smells, etc. Sometimes I'll put on music. It has to be instrumental though, because lyrics I find distracting. And even some, actually, if the instrumental music is too involved, like some free jazz I find very distracting. Yeah, so usually, you know, like classical jazz, stuff like that. I've been getting really into flamenco recently, so I've been listening to a lot of those while reading. Okay, and finally, question 11. Can you leap from book to book, or do you need buffer time between them? Typically, I need buffer time. I find it really difficult to go from book to book. Usually, it takes me a couple days at least before I can start a new book. If not, you know, sometimes it's even like a full week or so before I can really start a new one. It's not always because I just need more time to like process the book. Sometimes it's just I have trouble figuring out what I want to read next. And that was the Moody Reader Tag. I'm gonna be a coward and not tag anyone. But if you saw this and thought it seemed like a good time, go ahead and do it. This is your invitation. Go do it. Have fun. Okay. Now that that's done, I'm just gonna go and try to get out of here as quickly and quietly as possible.